Hello and welcome back to the next day. I believe it's day 6 now that I am continuing the 40-day challenge. Yesterday we discussed loss, and I wanted to challenge you to find the win, find the gain in those losses. And I shared with you a few of my losses and told you I'd come back with the win or the gains from those losses. Now, that doesn't mean that I've got them all down pat. In fact, it could even take you a little while to find those little golden nuggets in the loss. Because it's not like, oh, hi, here I am. No. Because when you take in the loss, sometimes our mental state, we focus so much on the loss, it's very difficult to see the gain. Sometimes it takes us a long time to even accept the loss, to be able to see the gains. I mean, give an example here. Being a widow, losing husbands, what is the gain in that? Well, you lose the husband, you do gain a small stipend, at least in the United States, but that's kind of a monetary and it's not really worth talking about, frankly. But the bigger part of it, the gold nuggets to find within that loss, what you did together, what did you work on together, what did you learn from that, how did you grow from it, how did it prosper you internally, as well as how you present yourself afterward. And sometimes you tend to crawl into a hole and say, I don't want to deal with anybody. Then there's other times when you want to just be generous and give. And really, that's the better way to look at it, is being generous and giving, right? Well, it's not always that easy. So, as I had mentioned, I wanted to be in acting, and I learned that they go hand in hand. What I didn't acknowledge until recently is that as much as I was told to put it on the back burner, don't pay attention, it doesn't, it's not there, and I didn't get to be on childhood acting, it's still not out of the picture. I can still be in acting just as an adult. But is that really what is supposed to be? Well, for me, for the moment, the answer is no, because I'm still processing everything. Now, I've gotten a broad range here, just general synopsis to kind of help you out. And that is that I had kids. They were a blessing. I learned a lot from them. But at the same time, I lost because I was treated very badly. So were they. And things were used against me in a court of law. So the benefit of this is that I'm able to help others, I'm able to share with others to avoid those pitfalls that I fell into with human trafficking and being in arranged marriage. Now, in some cultures, arranged marriages are totally the norm, but arranged marriages can be so problematic and troublesome. And yeah, I mean, just take the queens and the kings. They're arranged from childhood. They're not given that chance. So in other countries, it's the same thing. They're expected to be in certain ways and certain, it's the culture and dynamics. They call them matchmakers. And it's not always in a benefit. It can actually be to the detriment of one or both parties involved. So I see that as a way to share to avoid those pitfalls. After that, I ended up with a beautiful Latino husband. And all I have to do is remember those memories. Pictures are wonderful. They really do help the process of the loss and finding and remembering the positives in it. In this particular case, we went a lot of travel, and I loved traveling even before we got together, so travel was perfect because I love to travel. I still enjoy traveling, but with all these new pandemic regulations, I can't exactly do that. Um, More for safety than anything. I mean, they technically you can travel, but err on the side of caution. But what I did learn with him was how to speak Spanish. He made sure he took the Spanish language that I had learned from childhood, and I learned several languages. I learned German, Swahili, Italian, French, Chamorro, which is an island language, Spanish, Japanese, and of course English. Mm. And I had a challenge with learning language. Growing from the basics, the dyslexia was very, very mild, but it was very there. So they had to be creative and they used phonics to be able to help me to learn it. And from that point, I actually started using phonics to learn these other languages. So it really was a benefit. And he said, no, I'm going to take you and I'm going to teach you my way. Boy, was he right. He took me right into the middle of the center of his town, showed me where his family was at, and then had me to go shopping. Mind you, nobody there spoke a lick of English. It was all Spanish. So if I was going to get something, I had to know my Spanish enough to be able to figure it out. But he knew in his heart that I could do it. I had to just realize in my heart, I had it down pat. I just had to do it. So I learned from that. I also taught children English. They would come to me with their homework and they needed help with their English because their parents couldn't understand it and they need to get it done for school. The parents were paying for the school because there they pay for school until you get to college and then the government pays for it. At least that's what I understood. So I made them a deal. While you're working, I will work with your children. I will make sure their homework is completed and that they've got it clear so that when you go home, you just focus on the other stuff. They loved it. I told them no charge. No, I won't charge you anything. And I found a delight in actually helping them to learn to the point that I actually started teaching adults English basics, farmers how to speak a little bit of English. I helped college students learn English. And I thought I couldn't do this because in the States you have to have a certification to teach. They said, no, not here. You don't need to, the only certification is you're a U.S. citizen. You know, your primary is English, so you're gonna teach. Now, in the middle of all of this, I also was cleaning out my late mother-in-law's areas of her main part of her house because it was needing help. Anyhow, through it all, I found fabric and I found stuffing, and it came to me out of nowhere to create bears. But I said, okay, you have regulations, you have federal regulations, you have to have certain documentation, at least in the States you did, to be able to make these bears. To be able to make stuffed animals of any kind, you have to have a document. No, no, you don't. If you can do it, do it. I made 14 bears and I sold them. I taught English to those who couldn't otherwise take it, pay for it, because I was very discounted. I went to their home and they did group and I actually helped them and learn. So those are a couple of ideas there that I learned. And the order for support that was denied at first and then put on to the forest, I put that together with it still needs to be talked about. It still needs to be shared about because there was a lot of lies, deception, and it was chaos. But the beauty is that now it's over, and now I have a story to share, to tell, to help others avoid those pitfalls that I fell into, that others might be able to live a better, more enlightened, more, a happier life. And that isn't even exactly the wording that I'm looking for, but I think you get the idea. So the other part was that I was involved with a man I call the Piano Man. That was his nickname, the Piano Man. And I got to be able to do entertainment. I got to enjoy um, working with people in entertaining, and it was nice. It was fun. It still wasn't acting. It was okay, but it just wasn't like that. And what I also learned is that through it all, I was actually entertaining as a bee, as a mascot. I was a mascot twice. Once in high school, no, not once in high school. Both of them were after high school, but not. No, one was while I was my junior to senior year, and I was a mascot for Sears, and then I was a mascot for a buffet. And I found love in both of those because I got to entertain, I got to do theater, acting, and no words, just entertainment. And it was a delight. So at the end, my second late husband, he was my childhood, he was a childhood love. Now, mind you, when we first met, I was scared to death of him. But the positive about it is that all the things that I had learned previously became a golden piece. I was able to do things for him, cooking, teaching, helping in ways that I couldn't have if I hadn't had all those previous experiences. So see, life has a way of stepping stones to a positive. What are the positives? You've got to find those. And I found a love for writing. Um, I actually did publish a book. Of course, I'm looking at redoing it and setting into more of a study kind of thing. And the very last part that I can think of is my service dog. He was a huge loss. Since then, I have had a hard time being social. I've social anxiety like nobody's business. Even if it weren't COVID, if it weren't the pandemic issues, I think I would still struggle with being social simply because of the connection issues. I'd still feel, I still have a tendency of feeling outcast, and I'm really working on that one. But he helped me to see my strengths and discover who I was, and not that I was defined as, but to determine who I was internally until I outgrew. Now, some of my strengths I've discovered, my abilities are creating. I'm very creative. I've created books, I've created journal, created diary, I've created studies, I've created courses, I've created blankets, I've crocheted, knit, embroidered, tat, all of that stuff. I enjoy doing all of that, and sewing. So the whole point here is journaling. It's a big deal. That's the journal kind of setup that I did for the preparation for today's video. I wanted to make sure that I got everything over over an overview of exactly what I'm trying to explain here. The wins, the gold nuggets from those losses. That's what's going to be your strength. You have to build on that strength to become who you are, the better person. Now, the ability equation is always all about finding the ability in the middle of the disability. It's all about it, because we all have a life that is ready to be fulfilled. But are you ready to embrace it? Comment below, let me know what you think of this, and let me know what your take is, and tell me if you have done any journaling. I want to know. Until tomorrow, have a great